he unexpectedly discovers a secret in their wedding photo. His wife's two fingers are surprisingly intertwined. The gesture signifies a plea for God's forgiveness. This means their marriage is not valid. The next day, Truman doesn't confront her directly. Instead, he deliberately approaches his wife to test her. This woman he's lived with for years. What is she hiding? But his wife seems to know all along. She deliberately claims she has an important surgery that she's waiting to undergo. His wife is usually not busy, but today she acts out of character. Truman becomes more certain of his suspicions, so before he leaves, he intentionally says, "I'll cross my fingers for your success." His wife was stunned. She turns to look at Truman, quickly regains her composure. Forced to fake smile like a movie star, she hurriedly went to work to get to the bottom of things. He secretly followed his wife to the hospital. Unexpected nurses tried to stop him. They refused to let him in. Truman pretended to leave, then turned back to follow the nurse. A group of patients in wheelchairs rushed at him. Truman easily dodged them at the intersection, but in the corridor he met a staff pushing a cart. They kept swaying to block his path. After dealing with all the troubles, he finally reached the surgery room where his wife was. But what awaited him was a poor performance. The lead surgeon was about to make the incision. The patient, who should have been anesthetized, suddenly stood up. Truman noticed this unusual scene. Clearly, his wife's role as a doctor was fake. But Truman never imagined that the fakery extended beyond his wife. He realized everything around him seemed to be on repeat. To confirm his suspicions, he started making odd movements. He was walking, but then crouched to tie his shoes. He sat aside, carefully observing the world, finally confirming that everyone and everything was repeating. Truman looked for a flaw. He spotted a strange guy in the crowd. The man with the hat was spying on him. Once noticed, he quickly left. Truman tried to chase him for answers. A bus suddenly braked in front of him. At that moment, he thought, surely a green car will pass behind him next. He confidently turned back to stop it. From that moment on, Truman was more certain of his suspicions. He deliberately started running forward, suddenly changed direction, forcefully broke into a company he'd never visited. The people there clearly didn't notice him. They were still doing their daily tasks. These people had never seen Truman, yet they were terrified. When the elevator opened, he realized it wasn't an elevator. It looked more like a show's backstage. Security kicked him out, saying it was for renovations, but that excuse no longer convinced him. After a morning's experience, Truman saw many unusual things, but his discoveries were just the tip of the iceberg in this world.